Welcome to another new episode of the Get Organised with Declutter Me podcast with myself, Shelina. This week, my guest is Lesley Spellman of the Declutter Hub and the Clutter Fairy. Lesley and Ingrid, who's her partner in the Declutter Hub, have been dear friends of mine for over 8 years, I think, and have provided advice and laughs whilst we've been building our organising businesses together. And I always used to meet them at the conference in the UK as well. I have spoken on the Declutter Hub podcast previously, so I thought it would be lovely to talk to them about all things organising. So yeah, welcome Lesley to the Declutter Hub. Not to the Declutter Me podcast.
I know you kind of morphed into our podcast, Shelina. I was just thinking when you were doing that lovely intro, I was like, what came first, the laughs or the advice? I feel like our relationship is more built on laughs than it is advice. Is that really bad?
Yeah, no, I think, no, it's not bad. I think but it is us. Yeah. It has been more the laughs and the stories. You have the really good stories.
None that I can tell, Shelina, none that I can tell.
I know. But once in a blue moon, like a client will say something, I'll be like, no, my dear friend at hire has this story, so don't worry. Like there'll be one dodgy toy.
You're building it up now. You're building it up.
Well, there's naughty stuff that we can't talk about in the UAE, but we can talk about in the UK. So yeah, it's all that stuff. So anyway, let's get back. Let's go back. So how did you get into organising? Like what made you become an organiser?
It's a really interesting story, actually, because 15 years ago, I bought this house that I'm sitting at the moment. It was a derelict property,
right?
And fell in love with it. But it had been lived in by somebody who had hoarding disorder. And so basically the house was completely full to the brim for the previous kind of 30 years.
Right.
And people had walked past in the neighbourhood, blah, 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 blah. Fast forward, I bought the house. When I bought the house, it was empty. So it had been empty. It had taken the people 9 months to empty the property. That's how full it was. So we're talking about, ladders through the stairwell because the guy who lived here couldn't get up the stairs. He couldn't get in his front door. So standard hoarding disorder, really, and probably undiagnosed at that time. But fast forward to me doing this kind of transformational renovation on this property. And of course, all the people in the neighbourhood were really happy because it had been an eyesore before and it became this beautiful property. And people used to stop and stare. And then if I was there, then people used to talk to me. And what I noticed was huge amounts of judgment, very negative judgment about the guy who had lived there before.
Right.
And I found it quite hard to listen to. I was like, they're being so harsh. This is obviously a mental health condition that needs, it's not just about the stuff. And so that's what sowed the seed in my mind, really, that I wanted to go and I wanted to help people, not necessarily with hoarding disorder, but people who struggle with clutter. And that's where it all started. And so a year later, I launched my business.
Wow, that's amazing. And
did you know that?
No, I didn't. I really never. I don't think I have ever asked you that, like how you got into it. Like, yeah, no, that's amazing. Did you ever find out who that the previous owner was, or had he passed away, or?
What? Yeah, he passed away. Away. So I heard lots of stories. He had three houses in the area, all the same. So, very severe hoarding disorder, 20, I think like 20 cars in the drive. And so it was, it was severe and it was a struggle for him, and he struggled for many years. But luckily the house was intact, kind of, and did a renovation. Now it's a lovely property. So I started, back in 2009, 2010, something like that.
Right.
Everybody, I'm in Manchester in the north of England, and so everybody was like, no one's ever going to do that. No one's ever going to buy it. You're going to have to put it on the back of a cleaning service. And I was like, I'm going to do it. There are people all around the world doing this. And so it's obviously a thing, particularly in the States. You were one of the early adopters as well, Shelina.
Yeah.
And so, it was just, I was gonna show people that it could work because I really felt that I could give something back. So I started a business and it grew very, very quickly, thankfully. And we're still here 13 years later with kind of 7 Clutter Fairies and the Declutter Hub, teaching people how to do this online. So it is a thing, and it's much easier now because everybody knows about professional organising and decluttering and is confident to invite people into their homes to help them. But back in the day, it seemed like it was like in the 90s or something, not that long ago.
Practically.
Yeah, exactly. It was tough then, to explain what we could bring to people, and that we were not going to just throw all that stuff away, which is
Yeah.
basically what a lot of people think.
Well, I think they still do. I mean, I still get that people are nervous, and I'm like, no, you have to review everything before. I'm not going to just throw it out unless it's complete and utter rubbish, but people still go through the bags, even when I've put stuff in, in the trash and everything, or in recycling. So, but yeah, it's funny. But how did you get people to get into, like, understand it? Because for me, like here, nobody understood what I was talking about. And because when I started 2013, oh yeah, it's my 10-year anniversary this year. But yeah, so yeah, no. But yeah, how did you get people to start, like, understanding what you were doing?
I think it was just at that time, it was just about going out there and explaining it to people. And I think people who have never had a problem with clutter are never really going to understand that deep emotional connection and what makes it so difficult for people. But people who have, once they've found and heard that somebody could help them out of this situation,
Yeah.
it was straight in there. So I think the people who understand it understood it, if that makes sense. The people who truly it and see it, and that's still the case now. Because we're faced with people all the time that are like, why would you need a professional organizer? Just throw your stuff away. It's simple. But who don't understand about that, there are stories that sit behind the clutter. It's never about the stuff. It's always about the emotions that sit behind that stuff. And it's always about the stories, And so I think it's easier now because it's become, if we go back 13, 15 years ago, people would be like, why do you need a personal trainer? Just go out there and run. You know what I mean? It's as simple. But now people don't give it a second thought and will use personal trainers all the time. So the growth is quite similar, I think, with professional organisers.
Yeah. No, but I think you're right. It's a lot of it has to do with the emotional clutter. People think it's just the physical stuff, but it's emotional clutter. And I know you work with a lot of people who are dealing with emotional clutter. So for the listeners, what do you consider as emotional clutter? What do you think is emotional clutter?
I think all professional organisers work in the same way, Shelina, but it depends on where your kind of focus is. But we're very led by, we always say emotions first, stuff second. And the people that typically work with us would be people who really struggle. And so we have a wide ranging set of clients who work with us one-to-one, but within the Declutter Hub, it typically is people who really struggle to get over the line and to make decisions, and that have maybe been struggling for years or decades. And so we're definitely led by the emotions and teach people really to look at the emotional sort of situation and what's holding them back from making that decision, understand it. It's all about self-awareness at the end of the day. It starts with being kind to yourself and not beating yourself up over not being as good as the next person or not having this big fancy home and everything. People feel guilt, feel shame and everything like that. And so first of all, you need to draw a line under the sand and draw a line in. Well, you could draw it under the sand or in the sand.
In the sand,
Under the sand might be a bit tricky. And then kind of move forward with that. Be kind to yourself, draw that line and go, right, okay, this is me. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to try and understand why. Once you understand why these things are holding you back, then it's much easier to actually make the decision about letting go. And it's all about having control, Shelina, I think. It's about being able to, whether you're working with a professional organizer or whether you're working independently, it's about 100% owning the decision that you're making and feeling confident in that decision. And, as you said, people who have a professional organizer in think they're just going to throw all my stuff away, and we're not. We're going to allow you to make that decision. Allow you not, but we facilitate you then making that decision so that you feel confident in that decision. We don't throw your stuff away. We can't say that. I mean, it's a byproduct of what we do, of course. We do that. That's the end goal, isn't it? But so I think it's interesting. So we're definitely emotions first, stuff second. That's our kind of motto.
I think, and also, like, as you said, there's the various types of the emotions that we're dealing with, like you said the worry, the aspiration, the guilt, sentimentality. I mean, the aspiration thing is becoming a problem now because there's all these social media videos, right, with people using millions of boxes and trays and things. I mean, I do use them with clients, but only when needed. But I'm finding that people are buying a lot of this stuff just because they see it on social media and on TV, and then it becomes clutter, and it's just, and then they've spent all that money, so they feel guilty for spending money. So that is, it just builds and builds into different things, doesn't it? Like with all the emotions that come with buying stuff.
Yeah, I think one of the big problems when it comes to clutter is that we want to jump to the end point quite often. We don't want to put the hard work in. And so we see, and that's where social media is fantastic for giving us ideas and inspiration. Of course it is. But there's things that need to happen in the beginning. It's like the before and after with the weight loss, all of these things that we see. Like, I want to be like that. And actually, this fancy storage container or whatever is going to get me to that place without understanding why am I keeping things that are out of date, and why am I bulk buying so many things that mean that I've got to have things on top of my refrigerator. And am I ever going to get to that point of decanting cereals or anything like that? You've got to really analyze your own behaviors and whether or not you're creating a system that's actually going to work for you. And interestingly, for the last 13 years that I've been doing this job, I've been a fierce kind of I've never been one to say don't decant cereals, but what I say, I always say decant. There's many things that you can decant, but that's a great example of it. And I've been like, life's too short for that. And the people typically we work with are not in a place where they would ever manage that system of decanting, let's say. For the first time, I've actually bought some containers this week and decided that now's my time. But I think it's about that evolution. It's very similar to the idea that's been in the newspapers recently about Marie Kondo, saying that now that she's got her 3 children, she's almost giving up on tidying. I mean, she's been misquoted, of course she has. But that's just her life moving on, what I mean? And the same way that, I've not had 3 children, but my kids have all gone now. And I'm like, actually, I do have the time to put things in containers in the right way, in the kind of a way that I know is going to make sense and it's not going to have issues with it, that look nice. I'm at that stage now, but I wasn't for the previous 25 years of being a kind of, I'm still a mum, but do you know what I mean? Kind of running a busy home, let's say. And so it's interesting because and people are like, oh, she's gone about turn, because I've been a fierce kind of denier of decanting. Now I've kind of bought some, and we'll see how that goes. It might go away.
Yeah, but it's if you say that, but I mean, I'm very similar to you, but I actually have cereal in containers. So, and I have done it for the last, I would say, year. But it's only because I have no room in my kitchen. And because of the heat, if you leave the cereal out, the bugs will go in. So I was keeping cereal in the fridge, didn't have room for the cereal. I have like 4 types of cereal that I can choose from. So mine was, even though I take the piss out of decanting and I'm like, it's only do it for specific things. If you use a lot of spices, for our cooking, we use a lot of certain spices, so you buy more in bulk for them, but otherwise who can be asked to decant? But for me, because there was a logical reason to get the cereal, and I put the containers on top of my microwave because it's the only place I can fit it in my bloody kitchen. So it's everybody is different, and everybody, but you have to see what works for your life rather than following what other people are doing, isn't it? So
and it was an interesting decision to make, having been so kind of against it for so long. But that's because I can look at all those things and go, I know that I can maintain that system. I know that it's the right time. I've got a little bit more time in my weekends than I used to have, and so now's the time to make something look pretty. And I'm like, it's like a thing of beauty. I'm like, oh my word, it looks so nice. So I get it, and I get that people want that, of course. But I'm at a place where I can make sure that I don't have excess, that things are not going out of date, that it's the best solution storage-wise for me in my pantry, So yeah. So I just thought I'd share that aspirational.
No, look at us. We've had a whole conversation about our cereal decanting situation because we've grown to that level of organising that we can do the cereals.
I know, look, I've evolved as an organiser now. Next time I'll be folding my knickers. I've still not quite got there yet, but we'll see. Oh,
no, I'm very good at doing that as well. Yeah, no. I've found that because I've been doing this for so long, especially I'm working on so many closets and folding, that it now is automatic. So even at home, I don't think I'm just folding the knickers into the right way. My maid thinks I'm mad. But it's we've built the habit to fold. And
I know, exactly, and it has to become habit. That's the thing. And my Ingrid that you mentioned, my business partner, she loves a fold, and she has it in her routines, and she folds everything. And she's a little bit tighter on space as well, so it works from that perspective. But I'm like, life's too short for that. But I do try, but then I just I go, because I'm the haphazard one of the two of us. I'm more about the immersion, and she's more about the folding. So yeah, but things like that, aspiration is a big one. It's about really looking at whatever that is, whether it's something like a container or whether it's buying a spiralizer and wanting to be more healthy, looking that way, for example.
Yeah.
We have to look at whether that's an aspirational item or whether that's something that we're actually going to use. And, our homes tend to be cluttered up with things that we'd like to do. So smoothie makers or soup makers or bread makers. There's loads of aspirational stuff in kitchens, and it's really going, right, am I actually doing that? And even if you tried and failed, that's okay.
Yeah.
But if it's cluttering things up. So aspiration is a big one when it comes to those emotions.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's a big issue. I mean, especially here because people are so much on TikTok and Instagram. So they'll see things on there and, products that people are talking about. And makeup is a big thing as well as the kitchen stuff. And they'll see it and then buy it, and it will be completely and utterly the wrong thing for their face, and they don't get rid of it because, they've spent so much money on that. So it's the aspiration and the guilt of spending. So I think that's a thing that I think people need to start thinking about, isn't it? And
Definitely.
money, like spending money. I mean, especially in the UK right now with the cost of living, crisis. I mean, the heating bills are astronomical right now, right? So
yeah, it's a real struggle for a lot of people, and people are really having to look at, utilizing things that they've got in their homes and being more sensible about things. I think it's really making people sit up and look and analyze what they're doing with their life and with their money and everything like that. And so it's really tricky, and overbuying and retail therapy just has to go. That's not a thing. That kind of disposable income is just not there for a lot of people at the moment. So it's a real struggle.
but I think there's the issue of bulk buying. I mean, I've been to Costco at home and people buy like huge amounts of things, and I don't. The houses are not big in the UK generally. So where are they going to put all these like 200 toilet rolls? And people buy a lot of water in London Costco as well, which I didn't understand. Like, why are they buying? Why can't they drink the water from the taps? They buy bottled water.
Yeah, I know. I'm in Manchester. We've got lovely water up here. The water in London is a little bit rubbish, actually, in my opinion. There's definitely a north-south divide when it comes to water. It's very cloudy. It's full of calcium, and so it's just not that nice. But I'm spending a bit more time because my husband works in London, so I'm spending a bit more time down there, and I'm kind of like, embrace the water, Lesley. Embrace the water. Because you don't want to do the kind of plastic. I don't want to do the plastic thing. But we did do it for a long time, so I kind of get it. I think people are buying more you get more filters on their taps and things like that. And nowadays, I don't know really, but it's okay. But it's not the same as the northern water, Shelina. Definitely not.
Well, I will disagree because I'm from Kent and I'm even more southern than London, and I love the Kent. As soon as I get home, I fill up a glass of tap water because we don't. I mean, now I have a machine that filters the water, but I have to say Birmingham water is disgusting. I mean, I haven't been up to Manchester. Have you tried Birmingham water?
You've done a lot of water analysis, Shelina.
Yeah, no. I am a water connoisseur when it comes to taste. Like, Birmingham water is bad. Yeah. Like, I can understand if you want to buy a bottle of water from there. No, it's bad. But yeah, that's what I don't understand. Like this, buying the bulk buying in the UK, and I think people still are, and they think they're saving money, and it's just
I think it comes from an emotional need. We typically do what we've learned. They're all learned behaviors, and they're things that we buy into the marketing ideas of buy one, buy two, get one free, and all that kind of stuff. And so we think that's going to save us money, and then we lose track of what we've got. It's so important to do inventories of what you've got in your pantry, and I think that's you need that control to make sure that you know what you need and you shop intentionally when you go. But I think we're just used to doing that because we've done it for so long, and sort of things have changed, and it's really about analyzing. We work with people all over the world. Dubai, you've got everything's right on your doorstep. Here it is for sure. But I think that there are a lot of people that we work with that are like, I only go to the supermarket once a week because it's a kind of 60-mile round trip. So that's fine in those instances. But if you live across the road from a 24-hour supermarket, which many of us do, we're fine, we're never going to run out, and so, but it's just ingrained in us because we worry about things. And the pandemic was a great example of that, with people going out and buying things, crazily in the pandemic.
Oh, well, I'm still decluttering all the stuff from there. The amount of flour and baking stuff still, and baking equipment, the amount of baking equipment people bought, which they didn't use, it was terrible. It's all going into recycling. It's just, there's nothing else you can do with it. Nobody wants it, so you can't even donate it, or but yeah, no, you're right. And I always say to people now, like, even if something runs out today, you could order it on Amazon. And I mean, I know in the UK, Prime is good in cities, but in like Kent, it takes 2 days, it doesn't come the next day. So certain places it won't come immediately. But in Dubai, we sometimes get things the same day on Amazon. So, if you order in the morning, it'll come in the evening. So you don't need to, or you can order it online, or you can, as you said, go to the supermarket or to the corner shop. Like, it's not difficult unless you live in the middle of nowhere.
It's just about realism, isn't it, Shelina? You've got to balance up what's more important to me: saving money, and make sure that you are saving money with that bulk buying, or having the convenience of it, or having less clutter. Sorry, so you've got to work out what's more important. It's that compromise, isn't it? I could save a few pennies here, but then I'm going to have extra bottles of water cluttering up my kitchen. Which do I want more than the other?
And I think it's difficult trying to get people to understand about having less stuff, especially in now, because I think people are retaining stuff, aren't they? More because they're worried about they won't be able to buy something because of the cost of living and stuff, right? So they must be holding on to things more than they did maybe before.
Yeah, I don't know really whether there's been a shift in terms of food. I think it's just all about, again, it all boils down to that kind of self-awareness. And I think that people were faced with the excess after the pandemic. So I think that has made people sit up and think a little bit. I think people were, the pandemic has been many things, of course, but in terms of the stuff in our homes, was a time when we were at home and could look around at what we had created. And so I think people are, good or bad, people have changed as a result of that. And I do think there is a definite shift in the UK away from consumerism, as much as like it was. I mean, it was crazy sort of 10 years ago, because we have this kind of clash of the children of the make do amend era and the kind of consumerism of the kind of late 90s, early 2000s. And it's just this clash of buying everything and keeping everything. And that's really changed. But I think there is a shift towards sustainability, towards reuse, really thinking those kind of things through. So I think there is, slowly but surely, but these things take a while to shift. This is not something that's going to change overnight.
Yeah, well, it's taken us a decade or more to get to the point that people understand about decluttering and organizing. So exactly. I think the repurposing is great, but it's still difficult to get people to do it more and more. It's still not as easy as well, right? To just, there's certain places you can go. I know in the UK, in Brighton, you can go to a shop and give your jar and they can fill it up, and you just pay for what you fill up into the jar. But I don't think that's everywhere yet,
It's definitely in the big cities, Shelina. So like zero waste shops are in, every corner really now.
Are they? Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so refillable shops. Whether or not they're in common use is a different matter, but it will definitely be in probably more affluent areas, I would say, of the cities. I'm not quite sure about the towns and stuff, but we've got plenty in Manchester, but we're the second city in the UK, to be fair. So they are everywhere. And I think the other big thing that's made things easier, and I'm not sure whether this is in UAE or not, but Olio. Have you got Olio?
What's Olio
over there?
Is that the cooking thing?
No, it's an app where you can it's a bit like FreeCycle, Freego.
Right.
We did do some research on it, because Ingrid and I kept talking about Olio. And then we're like, is it everywhere else around the world? She did some Googling. It's in 51 countries. So I'm thinking that it might be where you are. So you need to look at it. So basically, you just put non-food or food. It started off as a food waste app. And so you could put things that, that were going out that people would want, going out a day. And you could put that on. And then all of a sudden, it's moved into non-food. So all those things that you can't take to charity shops, but that people might still want, it's perfect for that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, we don't have that. We have not for food at all. And I think there's only one food bank in Dubai, because I see the sign for it, but I've never been able to get it's not a food bank like you see, like I've seen in the UK or, in the supermarket at home. I have seen that you can buy stuff and then leave it on the trolley at Morrison's and they give it to the food bank, or people can take it and help themselves. But we don't have that here yet. So,
Right.
but yeah, no, I'll have to check it out. I have to see but I haven't heard of it being here, but I'm going to check it out. I'm going to make a note of that.
Yeah, and I suppose with everything, these things need to be more mainstream to have more people, to get more sharing and things like that. But it is a fantastic way of getting rid of things that are tricky to get rid of, that we would ordinarily have to send to landfill. And so it's brilliant. Things like that really help.
Yeah, no, and we need that. I mean, because it's difficult to, it's even more difficult here compared to at home. Like, you've got charity shops, even though they're full now, so it's difficult to give stuff. Awesome. Right. So let's talk about some of the funny things that you've seen in your home, because it is different. I mean, we have talked about compared notes, and there's obviously some stuff you can't talk about because it's dodgy stuff. But yeah, what have you seen that's really funny or unusual, which you might not think is unusual, but actually it might be unusual for me because, what do you think is unusual that you've seen?
I think the thing is that, nothing's really that funny, is it? Do you know what I mean? Because it's just stuff. And so, it's personal stuff, and people laugh at their own things sometimes, the types of things that they keep. I think in terms of probably the most interesting decluttering project that I've did was actually I decluttered a dog. And so this is going to sound really bad. So I worked with one client, and she had quite a small property, and she had this huge Newfoundland dog that she had kind of rescued. And just that morning, I've been talking to one of my best friends, Sandra, about, and she's like, I'm manifesting. She had like a vision board, and she had a Newfoundland dog on her vision board. So literally on the same day, I went to her home, and she said, I've got this dog. And I was like, it literally filled the lounge. I'm like, why have you got this huge dog in this small property? And she said, I'm going to have to send it back because it's not working. And I was like, I might be able to help you with that.
Oh my God.
Within 48 hours, the Newfoundland dog was on its way to Sandra, and lovely Barclay is still there now.
Oh my God, that's
in Wales now. That's the best story. It's not quite decluttering.
Yeah.
But it is repurposing, right?
Repurposing a dog.
yeah, exactly.
Oh my God,
so
that's
probably the most
amazing.
interesting thing.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so I think, I've found things, you find things. It's just when you see things that people weren't expecting to find, I think when you're decluttering, then there's that kind of sharp intake of breath. But I think as professional organisers, we have pretty much seen everything, and it's your stuff, and we treat it with the respect that it deserves. And so, we all know what kind of things we're talking about. We all have them, but not often people would hide those kind of things before someone was coming in. But if your house is in disarray, then you might not know where those kind of things are, really.
Yeah. No, well, I found jewels, diamonds, and like sapphires, like loose. And I remember one couple, they had been fighting about losing these jewels, and I found it. And the husband had heard that there was some random woman in the house who had come home, and then suddenly saw me, and the wife just went, she found this. And he went, okay, you carry on doing what you're doing then. And he left straight away. And it was, but amount of people who have like jewelry, watches, stuff lying around, and I'm like, you need to put this in the safe. I mean, this is a safe country, but people will still get tempted to steal this stuff if it's just lying around, so I
think that's probably one of the most special things, isn't it, when you find jewelry in particular, and definitely sentimental jewelry, so engagement rings, wedding rings, all those kind of things. One of our members actually found something. She was going through something last week, and she found a diamond earrings, I think it was, that had been missing for kind of 10 years, and she couldn't have been happier. That's a big one, but that's why you really need to go carefully. Whatever you're doing or whoever you're working with needs to see everything, open everything, see everything, check everything, and make conscious decisions. This can't be something where this is why these ideas of put something in a box for 6 months and put a date on it and throw it away in a year. It's absolutely nonsensical, because you have to have control over what you're doing. Otherwise, you'll miss these kind of things. And then as soon as you miss something like that, and you've lost a set of diamond earrings, for example, then you're always nervous. about doing the same again. And then that's why you cling on to things. And that's why you don't want to tackle the decluttering, because you think something's going to get lost or thrown away that you don't want to. So it's all this kind of cycle, isn't it, Shelina? And it's all about feeling in control and making the right decisions.
No, it is. You're right. It's spot on. And it's like, the amount of people I hear that say, oh, this is where it was. Oh, I've been looking for this. And I should record all of them. Like, they've all said that at some point or another during the session. But you're right. The ones that have lost stuff before are very reticent to do the process of decluttering because they're worried they're going to lose something again. But it's, but I do wonder how people just leave things lying around sometimes. But it's shocking. But anyway, right now, tell the listeners about Declutter Hub, how they can, join the group. Tell them everything because it's amazing.
Oh, thank you. So Ingrid and I, who's my business partner, we run an online membership. And so if people want to learn how to declutter their homes themselves, then we teach you how to do that. And it's quite emotionally led, but we teach you everything, decluttering, organising, etc. So our membership is at members.declutterhub.com. We have loads of free content out there as well. We're very committed to our free content. We have a podcast as well, just like Shelina.
You do?
The Declutter Hub podcast. With 230 or 240 episodes now, so we've been going a while. So you can find that at the Declutter Hub podcast, and then you can find us on socials, the Declutter Hub, at Declutter Hub, Instagram. We have a lovely Facebook group as well with thousands and thousands of members all supporting each other. So one of the big things I think when it comes to decluttering is finding like-minded people who get it. Really important, whether that's a Shelina and me as a clutter fairy or within the Declutter Hub community as well. It's just about finding people who understand.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And I'll put all the details as well on the show notes so that people can click and stuff. And so thank you so much for being on the show and just chatting away. It's been so long. We haven't chatted for so long.
Oh, Shelina, I feel like I want to teleport over to Dubai. I mean, you could come to Manchester, but I want to teleport over to Dubai. I did get to see you there last year when I was on holiday in Dubai.
We need to sort it out. I need to come up north. I have been to. I was supposed to come up to Manchester last year, wasn't I? And I didn't. So
come up north for the water, Shelina. Come for the water. Come on.
It's too soft for me. But
anyway, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much for listening. As always, if you have any comments or you just leave it in the comment box. Follow us at DECLUTTRME and on all your favorite social media channels. And tune in next week for another episode. Take care. Bye.